Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany McNamara. I'm the PTA Chair of Parent Education. We have a fun evening planned for you this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Distance learning. This is a pretty crazy situation that we've all been thrown into, but I know that we're all going to help each other through this situation. Welcome. We're here to help. This is definitely a unique and challenging time, and we're here to help answer any of your questions and make distance learning easier for you and your student. This evening we have Dr. Meg, our wonderful principal, Terry Yee, who is our Burbank Unified Tech Support, Mrs. Bowers, Ms. Garcia, and myself, Ms. McNamara. Welcome. The topics we'll be covering this evening are tech tips and tricks, Google Classroom, fostering independence, and lifestyle support and screens. For tech tips and tricks, later we'll hand this over to Terry Yee. If you want to take a moment to keep track of these links, this slide, by the way, will be completely available to you. I'm just right now showing you where you can find all of these resources once we share this slide. This is the email that you're going to want to reach out to for Terry Yee and tech support. Tech requests can be found at this link at the bottom. And if you click on resources, there is a handy guide on how to navigate various problems that might come up for you using technology. Google Classroom. This evening we have Ms. Bowers to discuss the teacher perspective and Ms. Garcia to discuss the parent perspective. Ms. Garcia prepared this wonderful slide which contains many hyperlinks. If you click on the various pictures, you will come up with the hyperlink. I'm going to highlight one. This is features to add for struggling students. If you click on that link, whoops, I clicked on that link and I went to the wrong place. I'm going to scroll down and you're going to see a site that will help you block distractions, because the most common email that I've received is, how do I block things for my student? You click on Simple Blocker, and right here you just simply add this to your Chrome and see this little box. You're going to type in any website you do not want your student to have access to, and that will block that for that student. They will not be able to see it. Next is another slide I will in a moment let Leslie walk you through. She has this beautiful situation where she showed how she organizes the space and has everything ready for her student to be able to go through without having to leave his desk. This slide is about fostering independence. Having a growth mindset is very important. If you click on that link there, there's a whole article on why growth mindset is important for student success, and it explains what growth mindset is and how it works. But overall tip is, don't rescue your students, let them experience consequences, let the teacher teach, be their support at home, use growth mindset and set up for success. For example, I used painter's tape on my wall with some finger paint paper, and I just used some sticky notes to put growth mindset slogans on the wall for when my student is struggling. And that's how I help him with his homework mostly. And setting up for success, all supplies are accessible and easy to see. We started here with painter's tape on this wall, the schedule, sticky notes for things that might be due at a certain time to move them over when they're done. Easy supplies, this cost us $0 to set up. And then originally we had our students sharing a room. That didn't work out. So now we have one student, our middle schooler, shares a room with my husband. This is his office. And he has a basket for his books, a basket for his headphones, a basket for his supplies. It's very simple. And most of all, be forgiving. This is hard on everybody, and it's not a good time to be pushing anyone. So be forgiving. When students are struggling, just understand there's a lot going on for everybody. Be forgiving of yourself as well. We're all going to get through this the best way possible. Lifestyle support. Organization. Each of these has a link to an article which can help you. Organization. This link will be about how to help your child organize themselves. This is about creating a schedule and sticking to it. This is about the importance of chores, and I will click on this one very quickly. This is age-appropriate chores. Now, this we have used in our family since our children were 3, and it's very, very handy because you can see the things that they should be able to do, and all of our middle schoolers are about over here, so they should be doing all of these things. Screens, that's another article on screens. I know we are all struggling because our students are on screens all day, but yet they want to be doing the things we don't want them to be doing. Parental controls, there are many types of parental controls. I use the Circle. The Circle is an app that you can put on your phone. It controls your entire household internet. You plug it into your Wi-Fi and you can control every single device and set it up for what you want that device to be able to do or not do. We've completely removed any distractions off of the school device. They aren't possible to go on during school hours. Common Sense Media, this is an article that a teacher wrote about how Fortnite had invaded her middle school classroom, and she has some really good parameters on what you would want to do to help your child put restrictions on their screens. Marathon parenting, being home with your kids all day, working from home. This is all marathon parenting. It's going to be a long time and we have to pace ourselves, and I find it helpful to use tools. For me, it helps to create routines, prioritize tasks, budget time into tiny little chunks, and clean by area, assigning kids to different areas of the house. These images, the source of these images is The Intentional Mom. It's written by a homeschool mom who has 9 children. These images larger, if you want to take a look, this is how to budget time into tiny 15-minute chunks. And you just fill those out. These are all printable. This is a daily cleaning schedule and a weekly cleaning schedule. Again, you can assign different kids to various parts of the house. Task mapping, there's always a million things to do. This is how to narrow it down to just maybe one thing per day. An evening routine, each of my kids has this specific list, except for our 4-year-old has a different little list. And a morning routine, each member of my household has the same morning routine. They can alter it as needed, but they have some sort of structure to get their day going in a positive direction right when they wake up. And again, this will all be available to you. So that's my slide. Thank you for coming. You guys can do it. This is hard, but we can do it. Do what you can with what you have where you are, by Theodore Roosevelt. We don't need to have a lot of things or a lot of money or a lot to spend. We don't have to spend a lot on making things manageable, but I think that we have some tools here amongst this group that can really help our parents. So first, I would like to call on Leslie Garcia. I know that you are very good at using parental controls and keeping your child off of distractions, so I thought maybe quickly you could share with us how you do that.
So thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Leslie Garcia. I'm a parent. My son is a 6th grader at Luther. I'm also an educator, a teacher, and a librarian. So, and becoming a teacher has made me a better parent. Never would have thought that. But I think the biggest issue that I've seen both as a teacher and as a mom is the settings on the computer, on a Chrome, whether it's if you have a school Chromebook, you won't have this problem. But if you're on a PC, this is the problem that you'll encounter. So on the screen there, you'll see the one with the green circle. And my son is on my PC, and whether he's on my PC or whether he's on a laptop or a Chromebook or whatever, I have all these Chrome shortcuts saved onto every device in my house. So from my computer where I'm sitting now, and you can see this is my classroom, I can open up the Chrome browser that says David27 because that's his school account, and I can look at his history and I can see what he's opened. And from my desk, because I teach all day, I can see what he's turned in or not turned in. And like I said, these are all settings that you load into whatever device you have. I also do the same thing. It's on my phone. So if I'm not at my computer and I want to see what he's opened, I can do it from my phone. The link there where it says solution, click. And it talks about how setting up those shortcuts, and you would just do it on every computer so that you have access. And like I said, once you do that, you can then add it to your phone. And same thing, it's a Google account, so then you can just look through it and see what your child is doing. And on the next slide there above the clipboard, I say, right, add the Google Classroom app to your phone. So I have my son's Google Classroom account right on my phone. I have his email on my phone. I have Aries on my phone. So when he gets an email from someone, right, I kind of nudge and go, hey, did you check your emails? Uh, but he also has them. So when he opens up his Chromebook, I have his Chromebook set up with all the shortcuts, and it automatically opens to the Google Classroom. It automatically opens to his email, those two, so that way he can have the alerts and everything is instant, and he doesn't have to go searching. I have all those shortcuts that he needs that his teacher has provided to keep him. Uh, I'm sorry, to
That's
keep
okay.
him on task, right? So that's a picture of his room. We used to be right next to each other, and that was horrific during spring distance learning because I thought my son is special needs. He's auditory processing and ADD. And so I thought that if I had him close to me where I could be like, hey, pay attention, that it would be better. But then I got nothing done, and it didn't go well for him either. So for the fall, I moved him into his room. That's the corner of his room there. And because he's ADD, I can't have him walking around finding scissors, right? Everything has to be like literally at arm's length from him. So I call it his cockpit, similar to a pilot on a plane, right? They don't get up and move around. They do everything right from their chair. And so this is his cockpit and everything he could possibly need. Pens, highlighters, erasers, rulers. He's got a school agenda up there. He's got a schedule that I borrowed from Miss Bowers. We teachers borrow a lot of things. She graciously put it up on a Facebook, and I put it up, and he has it on a clipboard in his room. So more than anything, and I say this is why being a teacher made me a better parent, because teachers are if good teachers are good at having routines and structure. Kids don't want routines and kids don't want structure. If you just let them run around like crazies, they will run around like crazies, right? And those are the classrooms where there isn't any learning happening. So being at home, it's the same thing. The kids still need routine and structure. This routine and structure is a little bit different because it's at home, but there still needs to be accountability. I say my child answers to me. So Brittany, if you can click on the, what is that orange clipboard? So next to his desk on the other side, I didn't take a picture, I didn't have it originally, but Brittany showed you his list of her children's chores. This is how I make sure my son completes his tasks. For him, it has to be with times. And it has to be, we've tried lists on clipboards. Lists on clipboards just get ignored by my son. So his is right on the door next to his desk. And right by 7:30, class starts at 8. By 7:30, and I give him a 30-minute window, right, on days that we're having some issues, a 30-minute window to have all of those things done by 7:30. And then by 12:30, my son is hyper focused, so he can just keep working through once he starts. So he needs a reminder to eat lunch, otherwise he'll lose weight on me. Right by 4, he has another set of responsibilities to do, and then by the end of the day, he's got his 7 o'clock, walk the dog. This gives him structure and routine of what he's supposed to do. There isn't any fun until after 4 o'clock when everything's been completed, unless he can prove to me that he finished earlier. And if any of this is not completed on a consistent basis, I take away his rewards. Right now, he has lost his TV. Right now, he has lost he plays PlayStation. So he has lost TV and PlayStation. I just yank the cord out. He doesn't get it until so we made a contract that he has to have X amount of days consistently executing this within reason. If there's days that, are just not good days, that's acceptable, but it just can't be, I don't want to. And so this is just another example of building routines, structure, and accountability, because that's what kids need. And even whether they're home or at school, right? Good classrooms have this, the teacher, right, and the kids know what to do because they have some sort of routine. The home classroom can be the same. So
I
there
have
you go.
have to agree with that. Thank you very much. I have to agree with that as well. My children do not get any screen time for themselves until 7:30, and they know that they may not go on any screens whatsoever until all classroom work has been completed, all chores have been completed, they have cooked dinner, cleaned up dinner, babysat the 4-year-old, done some outside things. There's a whole giant list of things that have to happen before video game time, and they know that it's 7:30 when the 4-year-old's in the tub. That is when they get their video game time. Now, how do we achieve that when their entire world is on the screen? Because the biggest question that I have seen from most parents that have emailed me is, how do I keep my kid off of YouTube or off of gaming or off of Fortnite while they are supposed to be doing their schoolwork? And I have to second Leslie's idea of putting their email on your phone, because this summer we had an issue with that where during summer school I started to get notifications that Minecraft was happening or that purchases were trying to be made in different games, and that's how I would know that gaming was happening instead of school. So parental controls are very handy. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment to show the circle. This is how we parental control in our household. The circle is an app you put on your phone, and you create a profile for every single device. You plug it into your Wi-Fi. It controls the entire internet. So if anyone shows up at your house, you get a notification that a device has shown up, and you set that device to whoever you want it to be set to. We have restrictions that say pre-K, kid, teen, adult, and you can very specifically choose what you want them to do or not be allowed to do. You can say, yes, they're allowed on Amazon. No, they're not allowed on Minecraft. They're not allowed. And you can just block it that way. And then you set the devices to their name and their profile. That said, it's tricky when your teachers are also using YouTube for school, because if you block YouTube, then they can't access some of their specific websites. So what we have learned is that we just have to have someone in the room with our middle schooler. Not everyone has the ability to do that, but if you do, it's a really good idea. Basically what we have now is my husband shares an office space with our middle schooler. This screen separates them so that they don't distract each other, but he can hear if there's a lot of typing happening or a lot of just clicking, we know that that's a game and not class. But he'll just glance every so often and check the screen. Is that YouTube video teacher assigned video, or is it a fun video? And also with the circle and with the same parental controls that Leslie was describing, you can actually see everything that they look up. So you can go through their browsing history from your phone and you can see if they are, going on, is that a teacher YouTube or is that a fun YouTube? And you can, stop them if you need to. We do have firm consequences for if screen time rules are broken during school and fun screens are happening when they should be in class, they don't get video games that night. We have it set so that every weekend they have a recurring Zoom with friends, and that's when they know that they will get to do that for sure. But during the week, there's no guarantee that they will get video games unless they complete everything that they need to do. I'm seeing the question, is there a block that can be on a timer? Yes, with the circle, you can set timers. You can pause the entire internet. You can track the amount of time that they spend on different devices. We keep our fun devices completely away. They're not even in the same room as them until the evening. And we parental control the house, but they also have the device itself. We learned that we need to have a little bit more restrictions on YouTube. So The Chromebook itself cannot go on YouTube through our students' email, their regular email. They have to go through a separate area because it was too easy to just start going on there. So it's some extra hoops that our child has to jump through, but it's worth it at the end of the day.
Can I just pop in really fast? So my name is Mrs. Bowers. I'm a teacher here at Jordan, but I also have 3 children of my own, so I'm in the trenches with you all. And so I just wanted to pop in and say that like with everything with parenting, there are going to be people who are completely put off by the idea of having parental controls and a schedule and a calendar, and you know your child best. So for my kids, saying that you can't use your electronics until 7 o'clock, they're older. They have been so stressed out during their school day that as soon as school is up, I do allow them some electronics time because that's their unwind time. So just use everything that you hear, with a grain of salt. Hear it with a grain of salt and know that you know your child best. You know if you can push them and say no electronics until 7, or if your child is like high anxiety like mine, high performing student who's totally a ball of stress, I actually encourage them to take a break, chat with your friends, take 10 minutes to do something to get your mind off of school. So if you have a kid that's on that end, that's performing at that kind of speed, maybe the parental controls might be shifted a little bit. Still a good idea to have them no matter what, but you know how to adapt it best for your child.
Absolutely. And what's nice is that you get to decide whatever you want. So you just set it however you want it to be, and that's just the way it will be. So I wanted to ask Lucy Bowers, what is the most important thing you want parents to understand about their responsibilities regarding Google Classroom?
At this age in middle school, they need to start driving the car. And it's hard as parents because we're so used to taking the wheel and holding with a really tight grip and driving the car for them. But now in middle school, it's time for them to start driving the car. And it's scary, right? You are so worried as a parent. What if they fail? What if they fall behind? What if they can't do it? And that's where you have to train them, to teach them how to do these things on their own. So if I were to give a parent a piece of advice about Google Classroom, it's that's the classroom space. It would be the same for you to be kind of hovering in the background as if you were in my classroom, hovering in the background of my classroom. Really what you should be checking instead of Google Classroom is Aries. That's the parent space. That's where you're going to see missing assignments, grades, and things that parents should be supporting. But I just wanted to just reinforce the idea that Google Classroom is my classroom. And just like I wouldn't expect a parent to just walk in the middle of my classroom and ask a question or remind their child something that's really embarrassing to them when we can see them having an off conversation with their parent in the background. So all of those things just are a simple reminder to parents to keep that classroom as a sacred space, keep our Zoom calls as our classroom space, and try to give them a little bit of ownership of it. And then really focus on Aries, because that's the official grade record for your child. So they might look great on Google Classroom, but if something's not right with Aries, that's where you need to come in and say, hey, what's going on here? A lot of kids will turn in assignments on Google Classroom blank, right? Because they know parents are looking to see, oh, is everything in on Google Classroom? So they turn things in blank. But guess what? It doesn't turn up blank in Aries. It turns up as a missing assignment. So that's just the one big piece of advice that I would give to parents is to really let them start driving the car themselves, give them their separate space in Google Classroom and on the Zoom calls, and really try to guide them with Aries. Aries is where they need that parent support. That would be my big tip there.
I have another question. Say your child does fail a class. We experienced something where our straight A student, we gave them total free reign, and if they did fail something, our reaction, and I'd like to know if you agree with this reaction or if you think we should do something differently, was to stay calm and ask the question, okay, so you're not used to getting this grade. Now, can I ask, do you feel like it was just too hard, or do you feel like you were distracted by something? And I tried to just put the question on the child so that they work through, well, why did I get that grade? And then, say, well, it's okay. And just kind of like comfort them, because there's also so much stress going on. And it's not a good time to push. So my perspective is let them fail and then help them up. But at the same time, if you have a child who isn't interested, like I did notice that once we had an experience like that, that child was on it. That was inspiration enough. That failing grade was inspiration enough. And the next time they got back online, they had their hair done and they were ready to work and like focused. And that was my experience. But what would you have to say if a student isn't driving the car, isn't willing to drive the car themselves?
Okay, so if they are struggling to drive the car, then that's where you have to trust that the professionals are going to intervene as well. So we at Jordan have amazing support staff who are here to help you if your child is not driving the car properly and they're failing. So I know that your first line of defense is the teacher. The teacher will probably reach out to you if your student is really failing the class, not just getting a B, because I do have some parents that feel like getting a B is like they failed the class. But if your child is really, truly struggling, your first line of defense is the teacher. The teacher is going to work with you, they're going to work with them, and we're going to try to help them get back on track. If we start seeing that that's not working, that we need more interventions in place, I honestly have never worked with a staff that just goes above and beyond like the staff at Jordan, with our counselors, with Mr. Avila, with our administrators. We have a lot of resources here, a lot of people who are trying their best to help your child succeed. So as a parent, I'm going to stand alongside them as they go through that. I'm not going to dive in and try to rescue them, even though my instinct is I want to save them. And the reason why I say this is because I'm just a little over the hill than you guys, right? And as a parent, I have a 9th grader and a 10th grader. So I just crossed over that hump, and I see what happens when they get to high school. And when they get to high school, they really are on their own. And so if you haven't given them that opportunity to practice driving on their own with you next to them guiding, with all the supports that they have in middle school, high school is going to be really hard. And I don't mean that to scare you, because high school is also wonderful. The staff at Burroughs, and I can only speak for that, but they're amazing too. But it's just hard when you haven't learned how to be independent. So if your child is struggling, nudge them. They're probably going to roll their eyes at you. I've been there too. They're probably going to resent you and get mad at you. And just keep on nudging them in the right direction to talk to their teachers. We will then see that this child is struggling, and we will try to put some interventions in place to help them out. We don't want anyone to fail, especially now. It's hard enough now without having students who feel like, I'm not good at this, I can't do this. So we're doing everything in our power to keep them driving on course on their own and doing okay. Right now, my main thing is mental health and making sure that they are feeling secure and they're feeling good about themselves and what's going on, that they're making social connections. And the grades, we can take care of the grades. We can help each other with the grades. But if your child is stressed out, nothing you can do can correct that. By piling on, you just make it worse. So that would be my advice as a parent, to really let them try to drive the car by themselves, especially if you have an 8th grader. If you have a 7th and 6th grader, this is like training wheels time. But yeah, it's scary as a parent to do this. But you guys can do it, and so can your children.
I wonder if I could just pop in here for a minute and say, here's how I imagine a conversation going at home. Probably at some point in an evening or in a week, your child would start a sentence with the words, can I have or can I do, right, this thing that they want, right? Then what you're going to do is you're going to go on the Aries portal and you're going to say, this is interesting. I see you have 5 missing assignments in math class. Do you know what those missing assignments are? And if your child says, I don't know what they are, then you'll say, let me just shoot an email to the teacher and I'll see if I can find out. Until I find out, you're not going to do, or you're not going to have this thing that you would like. They might suddenly remember a few of those assignments. It's magic. This is like a tip I'm giving you. Don't tell anybody because this is a secret. They might magically remember some of those assignments and be able to produce them and show, I didn't do this. I forgot about this. I thought I had turned in this, but I guess I didn't. You say, okay, there's 5. That's kind of a lot to do in one night. But I tell you what, if you can get, why don't you pick 2 or 3 of these, depending on your child and their age, 2 or 3 of these to do. As soon as you get them done, you may have that thing. You may do that thing that you wanted to do tonight. That's my reenactment of a conversation that you might have with your child, to give them some of that autonomy and yet still holding them accountable. And it is a balance. And I would say between 6th grade and 8th grade, it might look a little bit different, but there you can definitely strike this balance with them.
Those conversations definitely come up. And I'm seeing a question about how do you check. Well, I know most of the teachers have invited us to their Google Classroom, so we do get those emails. And to add on to the conversation Dr. Meg was just reenacting, sometimes what I will get is, oh, I noticed there's a note from your teacher. There's a note from your teacher that maybe you need to elaborate more on this particular assignment, or there's a note. And that is the way in which we help. We don't look over and hover and change things and over edit and do any sort of like putting our work on the kids' work. We just sort of ask questions. Oh, I see that your teacher said you need to elaborate more. So how can you elaborate more? You have to have a simile and a metaphor. Where's your simile? Where's your metaphor? Things like that.
There's one question that came up in the Q&A that is relevant to right now, and then actually one for Terry Yee as well. So maybe we'll be able to segue here to Terry with these 2 questions. So one is about, a 6th grader and giving them that independence. But one of the things that particularly 6th graders and middle schoolers in particular struggle with is organization and scheduling, right? So this is where you need to come in and provide that support. This is where, you're working with the binder reminder, you're working with Post-its and all of those schedules. And that is where you really can provide that support, because that part of the brain, we often refer to it as executive functioning skills. It's a part of the brain that isn't fully developed until they're 25. So they do need your help and they do need your support with scheduling and organization. So you don't throw that part out. So that's one great way you can help and support them. I hope I just asked the question and answered it. This is how this is going to go. All right, here's a question I am not going to answer. I'm just going to give to Terry Yee. The question is, when we were talking about the adding that blocker, it was a Chrome extension so that you could put in the websites that you don't want your child to be able to go to. Terry, is it possible to do that? If you have a district issued Chromebook, can you add extensions like that to it, and talk a little bit about that?
Okay, for a district issued Chromebook, you would be able to only if, let's say, you or another teacher went ahead and input the request for it, and then it goes through an approval process. Now, there is one caveat to that with extensions, and that is that some extensions, because they're by third parties, they don't necessarily work well with Chrome. Okay, and what happens is, like, let's take, for example, Google Meet Grid View. That is a third-party extension. And what happens in cases like that is it often makes it fail. Okay, so it makes what you're trying to do in Chrome fail. And so we have to be very cognizant of what we're trying to add in Chrome. By all means, let's pose that question to technology and let them go ahead and investigate it, test it out, and then we can decide whether or not it should go on or not.
When should parents reach out to you specifically for tech support?
Okay, so this is your school website, okay? So I wanted parents to see this as opposed to the district page so that they can see exactly where to go for your support, okay? So if you go ahead and mouse over Parents and Community, you'll see here the Distance Learning Digital Resource Center and COVID-19 updates. And then further down, you'll see the Student Parent Text Support Request. Okay, so rather than wait for things to escalate and really be a problem, you're missing too many classes and everything, by all means, if you see an issue, go ahead, click on this link here and fill out everything as best you can. Okay, there is this message up here saying that this isn't for classes. So if you have questions regarding links that your teacher is providing in the classroom and everything, that's really not something that we can support. What we can support you with is your tech issues. Okay, so if you fill in as much as you can, as well as be descriptive over here. What is the comment? What is the problem that you're having? If you just say something like, I can't log in, that's so vague. We don't even know what is it that you can't log into. Can you not log into your email? Can you not log into Google Classroom? Is it an app you're using, or what have you? So be as specific as possible, and that will help us, okay? And then here, for your resources, this page here, which will take you back to the district page, okay, is the COVID-19 Student and Family Digital Resource Center. You've got all of Dr. Hill's communications here. You've got academic resources, as well as the Instructional Technology Family Support Site. This one here is done by Instructional Services and is updated constantly, okay? But if you scroll a little further down, you'll even get to here, technology, training tips, and problem solving. And the handout that I had originally given to you to go ahead and upload for this presentation is actually pretty much all here. I went ahead and had enough time to add it to the website. So if you look here for Chromebook troubleshooting tips, that's where you're going to find a lot of your answers. And there's just a few of these I want to go over with you, just so that you know it's there, but for very common issues, okay? There's also a link here to go to the hotspot, or there's also other training videos and assistance there. And this will be constantly updated as well.
I know that particularly one thing that might happen is if a student gets, kicked off of their Zoom, on the slide that I showed everyone earlier, if you click on resources, Terry has a very good step-by-step way to handle that if you keep getting kicked off of Zoom.
A parent says that she gave permission for email on Aries, but it is listed as deny and he cannot use his email. I think this is talking about the student. Is there something I can rectify myself?
Okay. So in a case where you've already given the parental permission in Aries, then the child already has email available. I want to go back to sharing the screen, okay? And then basically what is happening a lot of times is you're not going to the correct site, okay? So what happens is a lot of students are in Google Classroom and they think that they're clicking on email in Classroom, but that is not where it is, okay? So basically, you need to go to here, okay? And then the email is in, here we go, all right, here. Sorry about that, I was not looking in the right place, okay? So if you scroll down here, student email, how to access BUSD student email from home, all right? The common misconception is that you are getting your email through Gmail, Google, but you're not. You're getting it through Microsoft Office and Outlook, okay? So basically what you need to do is go to office.com, and when you go to office.com, you select Outlook. So exactly as it says it on this flyer here, okay? And again, if you went back into Aries, if you still see deny as your of your permission for the email, what you need to do is go into student info and then data confirmation. In data confirmation, now you can go back to authorizations and select allow for email. Okay? Do you think that answers your question there?
Yeah, and that was really helpful for me to learn that too. So now you can call the school and I will be able to answer that question when you call.
Okay.
That is a really common thing that comes up, is students don't know how to access their school email because they have to go through Microsoft Outlook. And let's be honest, no middle schooler uses Microsoft Outlook.
There you go.
There was another question that I had that I feel like comes up a lot is about, you know, a lot of times parents or kids are struggling with either their Zoom or their Google Meet, and it's, you know, one class works fine, but the next class doesn't, and it drops out. And, you know, you must get a million of these. What's your general advice on what to do in these situations?
I do get calls like that all day long. And what you'll find is if you keep track of the time of when it happens, generally speaking, the students that call or the parents that call say that the first period is just fine. It's the second period. As soon as they get into the second period, now they're getting bumped out a lot. And you'll find that it often happens on Monday mornings. And one thing that you have to keep in mind is that we are not alone in working from home, and businesses are doing it as well. And if you think about those Monday morning meetings that all start at 9 a.m., we are getting the brunt of not enough bandwidth, okay? And the other thing you need to keep in mind is that when corporations are the ones that are paying for this service, we are often bumped out. And there have been parents who have told me that when they go and they're looking at a Google Meet and what's going on, and they'll actually see a message saying the mics have been turned off due to the size of the call, and they're just trying to conserve bandwidth. And as I said, we're not alone. This is happening worldwide. There are teachers in Italy and Argentina and in other countries saying the exact same thing.
And if I might just add to that, so I know from experience on Monday, Google itself, Google Drive was not working for anyone. And so I just wanted to remind the parents that the teachers are facing the same issue too. So sometimes the kids will come to us and say, well, what's going on? What's going on? And in real time, we're also trying to troubleshoot our own Google Drive and our own Meet calls or our Zoom calls. And so just be patient, knowing that we're also experiencing some of that same lag. What I have told my students to do if they are unable to join a call is to send me a message on Google Classroom, because it shows up on my phone. And sometimes I can triage and help them get back on the call. Sometimes I can tell them, go ahead and start on assignment number 1, and then I will get back to you and I'll try to get you on the call. So if that does happen, it does help to communicate with the teachers so that they know that your child did attempt to come into class and they're facing technical difficulties.
And I'll just reiterate that and add something. The administrators went around to every single classroom and did a little presentation on school-wide expectations during distance learning. And one of our slides, one of our questions was, what do you do if you can't get into that Zoom or Google? And we said there are 3 things you need to do. Number 1, go back and check the Google Classroom. Because if there is a unique situation, like maybe there's a sub or the teacher's having issues with their technology, we'll get a message on the stream. And so kids should go and check. Sometimes a link has been changed for the meeting. Go and check that stream and see if there's a message, number 1. Number 2, keep trying, because sometimes it's outside of our hands. It's Google, it's Zoom, it's the internet. So, but keep trying. Don't just, the wrong answer was go back to bed, right? So it was keep trying. And then the third thing, just like Ms. Bauer said, we said email your teacher. Let them know for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you tried getting on and couldn't do it. So those were the 3 things we said. Check your Google Classroom, keep trying, and then email your teacher. That's what we told every single kid.
And there's some information that I provided regarding especially the Chromebooks. There was one student who went ahead and said, I can't get onto Zoom or Google Meet or anything. And then when the tech got the Chromebook and looked at it, the student had over 20 tabs open. And that is really eating up your resources, and that will definitely prevent you from getting a good call going on. So there are some tips that are in there. And again, the website that I showed you and all that, it'll tell you how to clear your cache so that a lot of the resources in your Chromebook are not taken up. One thing to remember about a Chromebook is that it really is just an internet browser with a keyboard and screen. Okay, so that's really all it is. It's not meant to be a robust piece of equipment. It's really just a browser with a screen. Okay.
Thank you. I'm seeing a question that has to do with screen time and managing multiple ages. The question is, someone has a 3rd grader and a 7th grader, and they're struggling to manage both kids and the screen time. I know Lucy has multiple children. I have 3. I'm sure other people have multiple children. I can share what I do, and maybe Lucy, you could share what you do. I have a 4-year-old, a 7th grader, and a 9th grader. The way we manage it is our 9th grader is completely independent. He does all his work all by himself. We don't really check on him very much. And he doesn't want us to. Sometimes we'll open the door and say, do you need any help? And he's like, get away. What are you doing? So we just leave him be. The 7th grader, we do have my husband working near him, so he can check in if needed. I am on the 4-year-old, and originally I thought I could do a lot of things in addition to that, but really my job is to keep the 4-year-old busy and do homeschool preschool. And if my husband has, say, a deadline and cannot manage the 7th grader, I put a show on for the little one and I go check on the 7th grader. In terms of managing the screens, I really think that if you have the right parental controls in place, it's really going to make your life a lot easier in terms of blocking whatever websites you don't want them to get into, just so they can focus on school during school. And then you don't have to check up on as many things. My guess is if you have a 3rd grader, that the focus goes on the littlest, and then you put the older kids on the background. So that's how we do it in our house. Focus is on the little kids. The older they get, the less focus they need. Lucy, what do you think about that?
So with us, our youngest is in 2nd grade. So we have a series of supports in place. And this kind of goes back to something that I saw in the chat, which is, do we just let them go on their own? Of course not. That's like telling your kid, yeah, kid, go drive. There's no way you would ever do that, right? You would make sure that they know what to do. You'd make sure to guide them through it. So I am in no way advocating just saying, hey kid, you're on your own at school. The things that I would support putting in place for younger students and students who maybe struggle with organization or just need that extra support would be alarms. So in our house, for our 2nd grader, I have Alexa set up all throughout our house, and there's an alarm that says, William, school starts in 5 minutes. William, your next class starts in 5 minutes. And it tells him all throughout the day when he needs to start getting ready for that next class. So if he's at lunchtime and he's eating a snack, he knows, oops, I got to hurry up because I got to get to my class. A second thing that we have is a family calendar. And so we try to have not every single event, but the big events listed on the family calendar, so we can keep track of days where my husband or I might need to provide extra support for our kids. Because I am a working parent too, right? I'm working full-time as a teacher. My husband is working full-time as well. And so we have to kind of go back and forth on who can triage, who can help with the kids. So we put everything on the family calendar, those big due dates, like if there's a project, my older children auditioned for a play. So even though they're in high school, they still had that need that they needed one of us to film their audition. So we put those on the calendar, and then my husband and I work our schedule around that. And I know that that's really hard on families. There's no way around it. You're really going to be stretched pretty thin. It just is the reality that we're in right now. The third thing that we have in place is the parental controls. And for the youngest one, because it's just for him, not for the older two, but for the youngest one, because he's kind of sneaky, we also have the out of reach parental controls, which means that everything that we don't want him to touch, we just put it out of reach. It's surprising how putting that switch just a little bit higher up on the cabinet means that he can't touch it until I say it's okay for you to play with the switch right now. So there are some things that we do to limit the time at home where they're on screens, because our kids, I hate to say this, but there is some period of time where they're not being super supervised because we're both working. And I think every parent who's a working parent can attest to that sometimes they are on their own as young as 2nd and 3rd grade. So what do? I control as many things as I can control. And then everything else, I deal with it as it comes up. I control lunch. I sack the lunch and have it ready to go at the beginning of the day so that that doesn't become a problem later on in the day. I just do as much pre-work. If I know what homework he needs to have out for the elementary school, I pull it out ahead of time. And I have folders, and I wish I had brought it in here with me into the dungeon. But I have color-coded folders for my 2nd grader where he knows every subject is a different color, and I have the time written on it and the subject, and so he knows it's this time I'm supposed to pick up this folder and do this work that's inside it. So as much as you can prep, all I can say is I'm with you. I am also stretched really thin. I also don't have enough arms, and I don't have enough hours. Take care of yourself as a parent. Try to find some time to relax and keep your mental health going and keep yourself strong, and control what you can. Because there's a lot of things that we can't control, but there are some things that we do have in our control every day. So worry about those first, and then be ready for the other stuff afterwards. Easier said than done, I know.
I think what you said is really, really important, that we have to take care of our own mental health, because the number one thing our kids need is a calm, caring, present parent. And if we can't do that, there's not much help we can give them. So I love that you said that. I think that's a really important tip, because this is a challenge on everyone's mental health, and everyone is working from home. My husband is working from home. His coworkers are working from home. Kids are interrupting them all the time. It is what it is right now. And there are parents that are single working parents who have to leave their home, and they've got a high schooler in charge of the little siblings while they're in their own school. So everyone just needs to give everyone a lot of grace. Give yourself a lot of grace. I love what you said about the Alexa. We have something a little bit similar in that we just Google calendared every single class, so that every parent, every kid has a pop-up, a reminder when class will be. We did that day one. When we got the schedules, we put every single class into the Google Calendar. We taught the kids how to do that so that they would know how to do that. And we shared it with every single adult that would need it. So that is a bit of a reminder. And we also do post schedules all over the place so that they can see it.
I just wanted to say one thing along those lines. I just developed this amazing poster right here to illustrate my Post-it system of organization and household control, which I've just copyrighted. So imagine this was a large piece of paper or your refrigerator or something, and you had 3 columns: must do, can do, and done. I love having a parent sit down with their kids either in the morning or the night before, and let's figure out what are your must-dos for tomorrow, and you put it, each Post-it is one thing. So this is maybe finishing a writing assignment, this is a math lesson, and then this is how we kind of give kids some control, right? When that's done, they get to move it over to the done side, which is super fun, right? We all love to put things on the done side, you know, those of us who like to write checklists and cross things off, right? So as soon as their must do column is all moved over to done, then together you've come up with what are some things that they want to do in their afternoon free time. And you've already decided this is to eat a snack is one of the, whatever. I was really struggling to come up with things, but you're going to come up with them with your kids of things they like to do. Then they get to move on to this column. So this is my post-it system that I invented all by myself. Okay, so that's what I wanted to mention.
And I can't believe we didn't mention using the reminder binder. Everyone has one, please use it.
So
I'm a mom and my son goes to Luther. We have that. And in the first few weeks, I asked him to fill it out, and I color code everything. So, this is my work desk. I have, colors for everything. And so I helped him set up different colors for him. And then he stopped, right? This is how we get away from giving them independence, saying, okay, I showed you the system. Now you do, right? And so he was doing, and then the first few weeks I would come in and say, how come this isn't crossed out, right? Like, oh, I forgot, right? And so then I had him go into Google Classroom where you said us kids turn in work or don't turn in work, right? Maybe they forget to hit the submit button, but they did it. So I would say, well, let's go in. So we got into a routine of going through that reminder binder and then just going like, okay, go look at it. It is submit. Oh, I forgot to hit submit, but we would open it, look at it, that it was done. He would hit submit and cross it off, cross it off, cross it off, right? And he had fun with crossing it off, right? Now, this last week, what week of school is that? Well, whatever week of school, last 5 weeks, last week. So we did that for 4 weeks, him and I together. Mm-hmm. And then little by little, I would just stop and say, okay, you got it. Because I wake up at 4 in the morning. I'm a single mom. I cook, I clean, I do my laundry at 4 in the morning for my mental health, because that way I can teach. And if I need to run over and help him with something, I can take care of that without having to worry about dinner and all that other stuff. But then in week 5, he said to me, I think I got it. I don't think I need you to come and help me look at my reminder binder and do it anymore. And I said, okay, no problem. And I said, I will be checking Aries only. And I said, as long as you continue the practice of going in and making sure that you hit submit, and he says, yep, I got it, right? And so now we're in week 2 of him doing it on his own. And he said Monday, when we were having, I couldn't get into Google Drive, I couldn't upload my lesson, oh my goodness, right? And I'm like, and then he said to me, I think I got it. I don't need you anymore to check. And I said, no problem. I will check Aries, right? And so that's how if you set up the systems, right? And then you release, like we teachers say, right? You release, right? But you taught them how to execute some of those executive function, the organizational skills. And then you release, then they find a way to survive. And they want to, and they want to.
Yeah, sometimes they do well for a little while and then they crash and burn, and then we reteach. And that, particularly in middle school, we find ourselves doing this a lot, right? They've got it, then all of a sudden, that synapse that was connected in their brain, that just broke because their brain is rewiring during this time, and that little highway just collapsed, and so they have to be retaught. I'm so glad, Leslie, that you brought up the binder reminder, because there was a question in our chat about that. We provided in our 6th grade orientation a video about how to use the binder reminder. It was an advanced video on extreme binder remindering, okay? And so for a lot of kids, it was maybe too much. But basically what you described is perfect. Here's what they need to do in their binder reminder. Write down their assignments for their class. The other thing that's really important right now, because they only have the 3 periods a day, is like Xing out, oh, I don't have math today, right? It's tomorrow. So kind of Xing some of those blocks out, I think, would be really helpful just for the kids to be organized. And then just what you said, Leslie, really it's about crossing off the things that are done. This is just your calendar of tasks you have to do as a kid. That's really what the bind reminder is. Things that aren't done, can you move them over? You know, that's the most important part. Don't worry about all the prioritizing and all of that, but just writing it down and crossing it off, I think, is super helpful. Another question that came, a couple of questions that came up has to do with, and maybe Ms. Bowers can help me with this one, saying that kids are trying to message their teachers in Google Classroom and it's not going through, or they're not getting a response or something. Can you talk about that?
Here's what I have been promoting in my class, and I've been trying, and kids still want to use that chat feature or use that message feature in Google Classroom. It is very challenging for a teacher who has 160 students and 5 classrooms to find the message in Google Classroom. So please start training your child to email us, because that's one manageable space. So I don't think many parents know this, but Google will send me a nice message on my phone that says, Joe Schmo in period 2 commented on an assignment. It does not tell me which assignment. It does not tell me when this happened. It doesn't tell me the message. I can't see the message. It just tells me he sent me a message. So at the beginning of the year, when it was just kind of trickling in, I could go and triage and like, oh, okay, I can see this message. I can hunt. I don't have a huge stream going. I can find the message. As the year progresses, it gets more and more challenging for teachers to be able to find those messages in Google Classroom. So if your student has reached out to me personally or to any of my colleagues, please know that it's not lack of trying. It's that it is really hard to find those messages in Google Classroom, and your best bet is to send an email. If your teacher uses Remind, that's another way that's a little bit more streamlined. If your teacher gave you a phone number for texting, I know some teachers use voice and they have text messages available, but Google Classroom is not intuitive, and it's a challenge for us. It's something that I've actually sent a complaint to Google. Like, can you please fix this messaging feature or take it away? Because it's frustrating to know that someone's trying to reach me and not know how to help them, where to find the message. Was this an assignment from 2 weeks ago? Is this, like, you just don't know. And then sometimes you get messages that just say hi, and you spend all that time looking, and then it just says hi. So yes, I would say if you haven't heard back from your teacher on Google Classroom, it's probably because it gets lost in there. Try to have them email directly, email their teachers directly.
All students have a BUSD email account, right? If they're in 6th grade, it starts with the number 27 because it's the year they graduate from high school. So it's 27, it's their first initial, middle initial, last name at stu.burbankusd.org. That's their email address. That's a real email address that works. However, it does not work in Google. It is not a Gmail account. You have to open up your web browser and write Office, right? Microsoft Office, and then choose Outlook. And that's the only way that you can open up your email is for a student is through Microsoft Outlook. So the kids are going to have to learn how to do that if they're going to use their BUSD student email. If they have their own Gmail account, they're welcome to email a teacher using their own Gmail account, their own personal email. A lot of kids, I actually have been getting more and more emails directly from kids. I love it. Actually, I have to tell you, I love it so much. It's my favorite thing. And it's from their personal account. But if they don't have a personal account, then they can use their student account, but they do have to go through Microsoft Outlook. And then the teachers, the one thing you have to know is you have to know the teacher's first name. And sometimes some teachers go by Nick, but actually their name is Nicholas. And so that gets a little confusing. I think we have it on our Jordan website, the staff list of names, so that you can see what everybody's full name is, because everybody's address, every teacher, every person at Jordan and in BUSD, it's their first name, last name at burbankusd.org.
Yes. So like for me, I can't tell you how many times people get it wrong because I go by Lucy. My full name is Lucia. So many people send it to Lucy with a Y, that goes nowhere. If you send it to Lucy with an I, that goes nowhere. It has to be the teacher's full name.
I also want to add, as a parent, I went into his Microsoft and I added all the teachers' emails directly into his address book. And I put like math and then the teacher's name, right? So in his address book, so that it's easier. And I also wrote them, and it's on a flashcard on his, so that because the first few days there was like, I have to email my teacher. Well, I'm in a class, go away, right? So those are things, like Ms. Bowers said, that I can control. I can control that he doesn't run in here asking me for a teacher's email, right? And I know it's on the website, but asking him to go look for it on the website, he's not there yet. So, right, it's on a card, it's on his mailbox. That way he can send out an email, and there's no need to like run and ask for help.
Leslie, that's a really good point that you did. And I've been getting this a lot from other parents. If you went ahead and typed in the whole email address first, like for Ms. Bowers, you would have to do luciabowers@burbankusd.org. Then you're going to see a suggested email. You need to click on that. A lot of students are thinking they are not allowed to email teachers because it's not going through. But the thing is, only for that initial time, you type in the entire email address, and then every subsequent email, if they just start typing LUC, her email address will come up. It will autocomplete. But it's just that first time. So Leslie, I like what you did. If every parent could go ahead and go in and put their list of teacher names in there the first time, then their student will be able to email all of their teachers anytime.
I've had a couple of people mention on the chats that they've just logged into their Microsoft Outlook, their kids, and their kid has like 534 emails because their student email address is connected to the Google Classroom. Now you feel the teacher's pain, right? So every time there's a notification, there's an assignment due, the kids get an email to their Microsoft Outlook. So be prepared. It will be slightly overwhelming. You may delete all of those things in there when you first log on because they are old and your child has done most of them, or you can go to Google Classroom to sort through those. So don't worry about that part. But really, the kids are usually interfacing using Google Classroom, and that should be their go-to. But if they do want to create an email, they can go through Microsoft Outlook. But I think it would be just like Ms. Bowers was talking about how overwhelming it was for her using Google Classroom. It's kind of the opposite for the kids, right? It'd be overwhelming for them to use their Microsoft Outlook for every single assignment that a teacher posts. They want to use Google Classroom because that's where it's a little more organized for them. I want to mention one more thing because it's kind of come up a little bit in some of the questions. On Monday, an email will be going out from the district that talks about a progress report in areas that parents can sign up for. I don't know if Ms. Yee knows about that or not, or if that's something coming, it's coming from Student Services then. There will be information about how you can sign up for a weekly progress report that comes to you from areas. It's an attendance report as well as kind of assignments, a grade overview, and that'll come to you automatically once a week if you sign up for it. So those, I just found out at the principals meeting today, so you're hearing it here first. On Monday, you're all going to get that email, and I'll remind you in the robocall on Friday about that, to be looking out for that on Monday, because I think that would be a great tool for parents, particularly if you're obsessed with the Aries portal and check it every 5 minutes. You might want to wean yourself off with a tool like the weekly progress report from Aries. That's another tip for managing your life.
A suggestion from a mom with that email, I went into Google Classroom and took off the notifications where the teacher posts everything. No, the teacher's supposed to post everything, where he gets an alert every time the teacher posts something. And the kid also gets an email when she makes a change to something. And as teachers, we're changing a lot of things because, oops, that didn't work, right? So that was too overwhelming for, like, that when parents said 500 emails, like my kid would just never open his email ever again. Like, what? Go through 500 emails? Adults can't do that. Okay, I can't do that. So I took that notification off. And so that way he's getting direct emails only. and I selected which ones we want to hear and which ones we don't, because we don't get 534. That's no. It's, so we don't get those. And that's another option for managing whether your child can or cannot handle. I know my son can't, so I took those off.
That's an excellent point. One of the questions that was emailed to me was, how do you manage how much information the kid is getting? And for us, we just keep our kids on a schedule. Our kids are not plugged into Google Classroom all day long. They are not plugged into technology all day long. They go and they sit for their class, then they get up and they move and they go inside, and then they come back. And then they get up and they move and they come back inside. And we really try to keep them off of the screens because they're on it for that many hours for school, and we know they're going to be on it for hours in the evening to decompress. So we try to fill the rest of the day with other things and then have them check it certain times of the day.
There's a question that I'd like a couple of people on the panel to weigh in on about the Friday office hours, teachers' office hours. A parent is saying, how do I get my child to go to those? Do you guys have any recommendations, parents or teachers?
For our student, it's not optional. He has a strict schedule, and there's pushback on that, but still, it's a strict schedule that he has to keep in order to do that. It's one of those things. If I was in 7th grade, would I want to jump on an optional day? No, most of us don't want to do anything that's optional, especially now. We just want to comfort ourselves all the time. So I think, having it optional for the kids without some sort of adult insisting upon it is maybe not going to happen. So maybe either the parent or the parent along with the teachers can set up some sort of specific time to check in.
Yeah, for me, I remind my students that on Fridays, I am just sitting like a lonely loser, staring at a computer screen all by myself, waiting for a friend to call me. I do play the sympathy card because it is pretty awkward to be sitting at a computer screen for an hour and just being by yourself in front of a computer screen. So I do have some regulars that show up every week, and they have let me know that mom and dad expect them to come in and pop in. So we usually just have a little chat, oh, okay, what are you doing this weekend? Or how's it going? I'll look, since I don't have too many students, I can go one-on-one over assignments with them. I can usually let them know a preview of what's coming up the next week. So I've started letting kids know, like, hey, if you want to know what's coming up next week, you might want to come in on Friday just to say hi. So, because I usually spill the beans. But yeah, it's hard for them because it is awkward. I speak as a mom, I can tell you, I think teachers are so cool. And of course my kids don't. Like, why wouldn't you call your teacher? They're just sitting there. But my kids will call their teacher on Friday, like as an act of desperation. If nothing else has worked, then they will reach out to their teachers. But they're older. So maybe if you have 8th graders, that might be their attitude. Maybe for 6th graders, you might want to make it a little bit more of a mandatory check-in. And then wean them off of that as we go through the school year. But that Friday office hour is so good for so many reasons. It's just the one-on-one check-in. I have the time to stop and answer questions. I have the time to pull up your grade book and look at it. A lot of times students will ask me, like, what's my grade in this class? And they don't know, like, I don't have all 160 memorized, but I also can't stop what I'm doing to go into the Aries screen to look up your grade in the middle of class. And I always tell them, nor do you want me to, because no one wants their grades to be on blast on a Zoom call. So I just tell them that that's perfect for Friday office hours. Come in on Friday and I'll let you know how you're doing, what your grades are. So yeah, I would just encourage them because it is, to me, a very important tool to utilize that's being underutilized right now.
And I would say very simply, you have missing assignments, you go, it's mandatory that you go to those office hours. Like, that should just be an expectation in your household. The light just went off in my office. What is going on here? I'm now sitting in the dark. Okay, with Miss Bowers.
You get to look like me, like a creeper in the dark.
Yeah.
I haven't asked the deal I made with my sixth grader was that he doesn't have to go to office hours if and he's doing really, really well. And I was really surprised and nervous about distance learning. I said he's special needs, and yet he's thriving. Like I'm surprised. And I'm happily surprised, right? But I said to him, you do not have to go to office hours on Friday if you don't need the help. And how do I know you need the help? If you have missing assignments or if you have low grades. And so Monday through Thursday, he won't eat lunch because he's like, I'm trying to get this done, because he doesn't want to go to class on Friday. And so that's part of my motivation. Sorry, Miss Bowers, there's nothing against the teachers. I have my office hours. I kind of like when I'm sitting there alone. I get to do some work, but I get it. I get it. We don't get, as a teachers, we don't get to really get to know our kids the way we would normally get to know our kids when they're in the classroom with us, right? So I get how Friday can fill that void. I get it. But it's what works for you and your child. And for me, I knew that could be a motivational tool to make sure he stays on task Monday through Thursday. But yes, the first thing, right, his grade went from an A to an A minus in math, I think. And his question was, do I have to go to Friday office hours? And I said, no, not necessarily, but we should figure out why it went down slightly, only so you can figure out, how you adjust. But, not so that he's, terrorized going, because his grade went down 3 points or right. So
there are a couple of questions about, when are office hours? Hopefully you guys can see this. So we have it by department. So from 9 to 10, all of the social studies teachers are in office hours. 10 to 11, all the math teachers. 11 to 12 is English. 12 to 1 is science. 1 to 2 is PE, and 2 to 3 is electives. So all of the teachers have posted in their Google Classrooms what the link is for their Zoom or Google Meet for their Friday office hours, because it's usually a different login than their live class. But those are posted in all the Google Classrooms. So that's where you can find the information about office hours. There were a couple of questions about attendance, one about our totally complex attendance codes. Another question that we posed to the students when we went around to all of the classrooms is, how do you get perfect attendance for the week? And there are 3 things that the kids must do to get perfect attendance for the week. Number 1, they must show up to their live interaction classes. The teachers will take roll and they will count them as present or absent. Number 2, they must do the Google form each day for the classes they had that day. And then on Friday, number 3, they must go to their Google Classroom and fill out the Google on your own or asynchronous attendance form for every class on Friday. One of the wrong answers to that question was, well, but I did all my work for that class, or I turned in my work. Turning in your work does not count for attendance. That happened in the spring, right? In the spring, you had to turn in things to get counted for attendance, but that is not the situation in the fall. Obviously, your work gets you a grade in your class, but it doesn't count for attendance. So I wanted to clarify that. And then the codes that you guys are getting, I can't remember exactly what they all stand for, to be honest. Here's the worst one is D. That is disengaged. That means they missed both their live instruction that day and they didn't do their Google form that day. They missed both of them. Then one of the codes, I think engaged means they did one of those. And then J, I think, is that they missed their afternoon. They didn't do their Google form, I think. And then on Fridays, there's an F if they didn't do their Google form. It is super complicated, and I wouldn't super stress out about it between you and me. Just have them do their work and focus on missing assignments more so than attendance. That's my big message for today.
I've been telling kids, when in doubt, do your work. When in doubt, if you can't get logged in, you don't know what to do. I can't get logged in, I'm absent. I tell them, when in doubt, go to Google Classroom and do your work. And if you can't figure it out, then at least I can see like you tried and you went into Google Classroom, you attempted to do something, you tried to keep up. And that also keeps you from feeling like I'm so far behind the next time you show up, because that feeling is, no one likes that feeling. So, and that also takes some of the edge out off of feeling like I can't log in, I can't do anything. I tell them, nope, if you can't log in, you can still do something. You can still go into Google Classroom and get your classwork done.
Okay, I think it is time to wrap it up. Everyone, you have just given so much wonderful information. I'm really, really grateful. I do have one final question for everyone who wants to answer this. But this distance learning situation is obviously very hard on mental health for the parents, for the teachers, for the kids. What is everyone doing to make life fun and special while all cooped up? It's smoky outside. There's a million things that we can get down about. So what are people doing to keep everything uplifted? One of the things that we're doing as a family is we have movie nights. It was our 7th grader's idea. He wants to cook dinner. That's his idea. He likes to make pizza and whatever he wants to make. He drags the table out in front of the TV and we have dinner and a movie night. And we do that pretty regularly. So that's one of the things that we do. What is everyone else doing?
For me personally, as a parent, I have been keeping really busy because just the way my body is wired, the second I stop and the second I slow myself down is the second that I start feeling overwhelmed. It sounds weird, but the busier I am, the more engaged with things I am, the more I feel like things are okay. I'm moving. I'm being productive. I take my cues from my kids, to be honest. There are some days on the weekends where I literally will say, looks like you don't want to get out of your pajamas today. Cool, pajama day. Let's watch some Netflix and let's just eat some pizza and let's just veg out. And I don't put pressure on them to do anything or celebrate any holidays or do anything that they don't want to do. And I feel like since they're older, they have a better gauge of what helps them feel normal. And for some reason, for my daughter, that's baking. So we've been eating a lot of her baked goods. For my middle son, it's music. So we've been hearing a lot of piano and a lot of creativity with that. And then for my youngest, it's video games, of course. I'm not going to lie, it's video games, but also just literally talking a mile a minute. He is talking nonstop, which is saying something because I like to talk a lot too. So letting him have that outlet, letting him have a person that will just listen to him. And sometimes it's just, but just letting each kid kind of guide themselves through it and not putting additional pressure on them to do anything in particular. And so, yeah, we're really lazy on the weekends, but I think they need that sometimes too.
I'm going to say something super dorky. I can't help it. But so I like to sew. When I was a kid, I used to do cross stitch and those kind of things. And what I realize, particularly now, is it satisfies two very important things in my life. Number one, I need to be away from screens for part of the time because it's really starting to hurt my eyes because I'm old. I know the kids could probably think they could be on screens all day, every day, and it's no problem. But the second thing for me that I realized is I have a job that I feel like never ends. I don't feel like there's a task that I accomplish and then move on to the next task. It's just a series of never completing anything. And, there's just always something else. So I need projects that I can do and then be finished with and go, look, I have actually accomplished something. And it is this pretty cross-stitch kitten, okay? So I am a huge cross-stitch nerd. And there are now so many fun, like little dorky cross-stitch patterns on like Etsy and Pinterest. There's this one that I just printed out. It's like a pickle with sunglasses and it says dill with it. And I'm like, right? Okay, come on. I'm trying. But I think I might have to start a cross-stitching lunch club and see if I can generate some enthusiasm around like crafts, things where you're just building stuff, even if it's grab that cardboard box and this roll of tape and make something out of it. But I feel like, you know, there is something about like going low tech and hands-on that is very nurturing to our souls.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. So we've started cooking, and my son is 6th grader, and he started cooking, and he wanted to learn. And I hate to cook, but hey, if he wants to start doing it, I'm all for it. So we started cooking, and I used to cross stitch when I was a little girl, but my mom actually crochets. And so she was teaching him how to crochet. And so he had his own thing, and he was going to do like a scarf with crocheting. And then he was starting to ask, like, when are we going to grandma's to do that? We have movie night, and we have lazy days. Like, I'm a teacher, I'm a single mom. My job never ends, whether it's being a mom or whether being a teacher, a librarian. And I help teachers with their tech things, so I get phone calls or text literally at midnight. So we have lazy days where I don't want to look at a screen. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to sit, eat pizza, veg, work with our hands, right? I started gardening. Like, I have a little yard and I never cared for it, but now it's like I'm in there and getting dirty. So those are the things, like you said, those low tech, doing things with the hands. Oh, cardboard. He made a mask the other day. He's like, do we have any cardboard? Like, there's Amazon boxes over there. And he made a mask, and he painted. We all, teachers always have crafts, right? He painted it, and he made some gladiator shoes out of some old sandals. He's like, can I destroy these and rebuild them to my own liking? Sure, right? What does it matter, right? But why? Because we've disconnected, and there's that soul, right? That soul rejuvenation from not being in front of a screen. So
someone put in our chat that they do family campouts in the living room, and they use glow sticks for their fire.
We've also been doing a lot with cardboard. Our middle schooler helped our 4-year-old build a giant castle out of cardboard, and we painted it. When we finish school and we don't do video games until 7, it's because we're busy. We're outside. We're trying to get our hands busy. So yeah, cardboard is just great, and everybody's getting deliveries. So there's tons of cardboard everywhere.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say we're all reading. And so, as an English teacher, I have to put in that plug that this is an awesome opportunity for your child to find that book that they're passionate about, and that they just read from front to back and then are asking what's next, right? So as a family, we have different books that we read together, but then we also will just kind of recommend and swap amongst each other. But like I said, my kids are a little bit older. But yeah, this is a great time for reading together and discussing books together, doing like mini family book clubs or things like that to engage that kind of extra learning.
Your kids are never too old to be read aloud to.
They're also never too old to read aloud to the family. We over the summer had our 9th grader wanted to read a series to us that he had read and loved and wanted to read to everybody. So reading is a great thing to be doing. Thank you everyone who participated in this panel. Thank you everyone who came and asked wonderful questions. We're all in this together. Everybody's doing fine. Wherever you're at, it's fine. Nobody's a failure. I keep seeing that parents feel like a failure. Nobody's a failure. This is a very difficult situation. Everybody's doing their best. So, give yourself a break and just use the tools that everybody's provided. The slides that I provided at the beginning will be posted. We will be sharing those. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and we are here to support you. So thank you very, very much.
I hope to see everybody at our next PTSA meeting October 13th. It will be in the evening at 6:30. And if you have suggestions for other Parent Ed nights, please let us know. You can always email at jordanmsptsa@gmail.com, and we want to be here for you and answer whatever questions you have. Thank you, everyone. Good night.